everyone, and welcome to the Formula Student 2020 Mathworks Virtual Closing Ceremony and Awards. I'm Lucy Killington, the Project Manager for Formula Student, and I work for the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. The sun is shining and I am at a race circuit, but this isn't Formula Student as we know it. For better or worse, we've certainly broken the FS mould this year. At the start of the competition year, last October, at Learn to Win, we welcomed hundreds of you to the Manufacturing Technology Centre in Coventry. It was a record attendance, including digital attendance, which makes me wonder if we didn't have a little bit of insight into how crucial hybrid events would be to our future. Learn to Win saw the launch of the new rules iteration, which affected your vehicle designs, the online CBOM tool, and the change in distribution of points across the static events, which better reflects their importance to the overall competition. We set the scene for what was to be an exciting competition year ahead, and we began the 2020 calendar year with a strong entry list across all competition classes. FSAI, our autonomous competition, saw a particularly good increase in numbers compared with 2019, almost doubling in entries. When COVID hit, the organising committee reached an almost immediate and unanimous decision to pursue a virtual event. I'm so proud of the hard work and dedication that the team has put in to delivering this virtual programme. But I do also want to recognise all of the work that goes into Formula Student year round. And between October 2019 and March 2020, when we took the decision to suspend the live event, a lot of people put a lot of work into the 2020 competition. For that reason, in no particular order, I want to offer my thanks to certain groups of people. Firstly, the scrutineering team, led by Alex Darville and Mike Jenkins. The Dynamics team, led by Chris Slevin, and also our Motorsport UK clerks, Rob Adaway and Lynn Spur, who had already begun planning the dynamic event courses for a live event in the summer. Of course, our organising committee, headed by our chair, Andrew Deakin, the FSAI subcommittee, and our manufacturing partners, who up until March were working full steam ahead to get our two IMECE vehicles, Alice and Bob, ready for the teams entered into the AI competition. The IMECE Financial Awards Committee need a mention, as does Keith Stocker, our volunteers manager, without whom our volunteers' applications would not have gone live back in December, and we wouldn't have the incredible support from all of the volunteers who have made the past few days' virtual events possible. Goose Live Events, our production company, led by Neil Carr-Jones, former winner of the Outstanding Achievement Award, had already begun work on planning for a live event at Silverstone. Our partners and sponsors, Mathworks, Babcock, ANSYS and Direct Line Group. And last but by no means least, the team at the IMECE, in particular our IT development and support group and our marketing team. Thank you to everybody. But back to our virtual events programme. A huge amount of work from some 150 plus volunteers, including judges and dynamic event specialists, has gone into making these events happen. I'm certain that a virtual element of some kind will have legacy and could lead to greater accessibility and participation in FS to enable its learning opportunities to be more widely available in the future. The patience and enthusiasm shown by you, our student teams, has been outstanding. We hope that the virtual events programme along with the entry fees arrangements that we've offered and the opportunity for 2020 grads to participate in the 21 competition, will set us on a strong path for next year. As my final word, I want to offer my personal thanks to our Formula student community for getting me through the past few months. You've given me purpose and direction in an otherwise uncertain and troubling time. Thank you to all of you. Stay safe, and I hope to see you in person in the autumn for Learn to Win and next summer for the 2021 competition. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. The last 6 months has been a very challenging year for everyone. Our priority from day one of the COVID-19 pandemic has been to ensure everyone was as safe as possible. Therefore, it was inevitable that the normal event would be cancelled, as there's no way that teams could work together to build a car, even if the competition could be held later, and the only way forward was to move the event online, with you collaborating remotely with the organising committee and the IMechE team to provide an online event which attempts to provide the best possible educational event for everyone. While competing on track is great fun for all involved, Formula Student has been about education, ensuring that you, the participating students, have the opportunity not only to design and build a car, putting your engineering theory into practice, but giving you the opportunity to manage and plan a large project which has to be delivered on time, overcoming many challenges to hit the immovable deadline of race day. Hopefully the online challenge has maximised the value to all that have taken part. Given the unique challenges, it is great to see we have 71 teams that have competed this year, with 21 countries represented in the static events. At least the CO2 savings from reduced travel will be good. The entries include 7 FSAI teams who had the added challenge of a simulation event and have had to write code remotely and then bring that code together to simulate the vehicle navigating the environment. The event's static team have done an immense job to bring this together. In particular, Lucy, who's managed this new event, organising in excess of 400 teams meetings, and has worked so hard with all the IMechE technical team to make this happen. So a huge thanks to Lucy and the IMechE for enabling this. In order to judge all the entries, the judges have attended all these meetings to enable your efforts to be scored, to give feedback on your performance and to moderate the results. They've also worked hard to deliver the best event possible in the time frame. A real credit to everyone, and so good to see how well it worked. I sincerely hope that every university team and team member has benefited from continuing this event. I would like to thank you for your efforts and hope that you've learnt a significant amount from having a collaborated remotely to develop concepts and designs of your cars with CAD and conducting simulations with the many CAE tools that will be available to you. This is exactly what industry has had to do in this challenging time, and will continue to do so for some time to come. Experience of the tools such as Zoom and Teams will be invaluable to you as you develop your careers, as will collaboration with CAD and CAE. I would like to thank all universities, teams and participating students for their continuing efforts, and I hope that as many of you as possible will be able to develop your designs further and compete with real cars next year. I also hope that you enjoyed the fun of today and yesterday with the racing in the virtual world. It was great to see the participation, in particular how the Formula Student cars worked out with the cones. We had 38 teams represented, and the event being open to all those who are registered in the main Formula Student class. At least you all stay dry. As I live near Silverstone, I could see the circuit experience its normal summer weather of sun, wind, rain and thunderstorms in the 8 hours we would have normally run yesterday. I even saw a double rainbow in the early evening. The Dynamics team have done an awesome job to pull this together, and I know some of them have worked exceptionally hard to ensure that the normal Formula Student circuit could be recreated with working cones. Live streaming it worldwide was impressive, with Andrew and Dowie doing a great job on the commentary and high-vis enabling all the on-screen action to be viewed. I'd like to thank Dan Jones, who put in a lot of effort to make this happen and is tonight's host. Dan, an ex-Hearts team member from 15 years ago, worked originally as an SES scrutineer, then led for us on the international rules and is now chief judge, which is he fits in around with his day job of designing F1 engines for Mercedes. Thank you, Dan. Before we move on, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Mathworks are our partner, and Babcock our FSAI partner, and sponsors ANSYS and Direct Line. I personally hope to see you all at Formula Student next year with cars competing on track, circumstances permitting. I imagine next year will be challenging as universities are still likely to be working online the first semester. So online collaboration will be required through the design phase, adding to the challenge. However, if working together to build cars is possible after Christmas, then we will do everything possible to provide a full Formula Student experience next year, bringing together education, learning from teamwork, project management, and hopefully plenty of fun and excitement too. Finally, I would like to introduce a message from IMechE President Terry Spall. Terry helped organise the very first Formula Student at Maya in 1998. In more recent years, he's been incredibly supportive of the event and was chief judge until he became the IMechE President, Terry Spall.
Hi, I'm Terry Spall. I'm the President of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, also a former Chief Judge of Formula Students. Been involved with the competition for many years, more than I care to remember. It's always been brilliant, a brilliant experience. This year's been quite different, but wow, watching it online has been quite rewarding, so I hope you've also enjoyed it as well. I'd like to thank all the teams that have taken part this year. I think to change midstream from a physical event to a virtual event requires a lot of resolve, a lot of resilience and a lot of innovation, so thank you all for doing all that and giving us a competition this year. It's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, to organise an event like this, you know, I've been involved with the team for many years now, it takes a huge amount of effort. So to go midstream from a physical event to a virtual event puts a huge demand on the organising team. I'm so proud of what they've actually achieved for us this year. So my thanks to all of them for what they've done. Absolutely brilliant, guys. Well done. You know who you are. I certainly do. And to all the teams who are going to get an award this year, I'd just like to pass on my congratulations. These are really tough fought awards. When you've got an award, you should be very proud of it. And when you go forward into your careers, knowing that you're a part of Formula Student, whether you won an award or not, that's going to stand for an awful lot on your CVs. And most people I've met since they've done Formula Student have had career trajectories like ballistic missiles. They've done extremely well, so you've got a lot to look forward to. Thanks to everybody. I hope you have a really great evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the live element of the Mathworks Closing Ceremony and Awards. We'll be moving on to the awards later on this evening, starting on those around 6:10, according to the schedule I have in front of me. We're starting off this evening's event with a panel discussion. The topic of the discussion is hands-on learning in teams to prepare students for success in the workplace. And I'm delighted to be welcomed this evening by a broad selection of panellists assembled for us by Mathworks. So with us this evening we have Javier Bermejo, Chris Lim and Nick Collins. So Javier has a very broad Formula Student CV, experience dating back to 2013 as a brake design engineer at UPCT racing team. He competed every year he was there through to 2016, then volunteered at Formula Student as a scrutineer in 2018, before then going on to Oxford University where he was a vehicle analysis engineer, and then he continued to judge for us at the UK event, which is much appreciated. And he's now the Formula 2 and Formula 3 simulator engineer at Prema Racing. So welcome, Javier.
Thank you.
Chris Lim is an application engineer at Mathworks. He didn't compete in Formula Student, but obviously with the Mathworks involvement with Formula Student, he's got a great appreciation of how the teams use the Mathworks software as part of the ongoing design, development, and testing of their vehicles in each year at the competition. And then finally, we have Nick Collins, who his career is similar to mine in that after graduating from Imperial College, he started with an automotive OEM at Ford Motor Company in 1993, where he did his undergraduate sponsorship. Moved to X-Track from 1998 to 2001, before then moving over to Ferrari in 2001, where he now holds the position of chassis design and technology specialist. There's a mouthful for the evening. So, welcome all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Javier,
having
can
us.
you start very quickly? Obviously, it's a very broad Formula Student CV there. So what were the highlights from your Formula Student experience?
Well, I think one of the most important things you can learn from Formula Student is teamwork. I don't think there is such an experience that prepares you for real work as Formula Student is in your studies. Really, really, the fact of trying to learn so many things that you have not taught before, the fact of trying to adapt to new tasks is really one of the things I always highlight whenever I'm asked about my experience in Formula Student in the past.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And Chris, from your viewpoint, what strengths does Formula Student bring to both to you as a company from your involvement and for the students who are competing?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I never, as you said, I never got the opportunity to compete in Formula Student because my university didn't offer it. But having spoken to a lot of friends and now colleagues that did, I'm blown away by the amount of effort and preparation that goes into each of these projects. I've seen much more in industry. You see projects which suffer many problems, and Formula Student, they always make it seem so easy. I think so. I really think it's that that sort of teamwork and integration that Javier talks about that's really quite special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Chris. And so, Nick, we met at Formula Student in 2016. I believe you were there with the Ferrari Academy. So what impressed you most about the event and the students that you met?
Well, I think the thing that's most impressive about Formula Student is that it's real motor racing in every single way. Everything from the disasters and the all-nighters to fix it to Formula One and beyond level innovation. One of the things that always sticks in my mind is the freedom that you guys have in the rules that allows wonderful innovation and wonderful technology, stuff that we're just not allowed to do in Formula One. So a little bit of feel a little bit jealous in a way, but it's quite something. I think it also produces people who are well-rounded in every respect of being an engineer. There's far too many engineering courses which teach engineering as just a dry academic subject at university, and in high school it's also just taught as just pure practice. Engineering for me is a much more holistic career choice. It's a little bit of sure, there's academic involvement. There's also practical skills that you need, but you also need to be able to communicate those. You need to be curious enough to find the right answers, and you need to work all night. You need to be use certain amounts of the right amount of judgment when you look at a solution or something, and then you finally need to put it into action. And this is something that is you see every day in Formula Student, and is quite rare to see in some of the graduates who approach us for jobs.
Absolutely, and you were telling me some interesting statistics about the number of graduates on the Ferrari Academy who have been through Formula Student or Formula SE worldwide.
Yeah, I think at least half of the candidates that we get have some form of Formula Student background in their CV, and then you find that proportion just goes up as we go through the applications process for the academy, and it's very gratifying to see. Certainly, some of the guys from the academy, the Formula One Engineering Academy, have done Formula Student, have gone on to very impressive jobs in Ferrari. one of the vehicle engineers, for instance, on the race team, used to be a former student, I think, in Virginia Tech and Oxford Brookes. Sebastian Vettel's driver coach was team leader of the Glasgow University Formula Student team only a few years ago. One of our tire scientists was chief engineer of Imperial College's Formula Student team. It's a very, very interesting place for us to go looking for fully formed engineers at a very young age.
Absolutely, and it's the same for us at HPP where I work. So HPP are a partner of Formula Student, and as part of our graduate recruitment program, we look to try and source the best graduates from Formula Student each year. And it's safe to say that my Formula Student's been instrumental in my own career. So my first job after university was with Bentley. Then after that, at a company called Flyward, and that was run by our former head judge, John Hilton, and his colleague, Doug Cross. And I'd met both of those through doing Formula Student a couple of years ago. And it's the value of those networking and introductions, plus the skills and experience that was on the CV, that it's just it's all hugely beneficial. So, Chris, within your colleagues, do you have many FS alumni with those you work with?
Yeah, I think we have a couple. So obviously, quite a bit different to Ferrari and Mercedes. We don't just do automotive and motor racing. So we have a much wider kind of background of engineers in the team. But there's definitely, I think, 2 or 3 people who have Formula Student backgrounds, and now they primarily work with a lot of Formula One teams across the board. And but they also branch out, and a lot of that experience is definitely applicable to other industries as well. I don't think it's just specific to motor racing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. There's many FS alumni who go on to work in other engineering sectors away from automotive and motorsport. There aren't many events or extracurricular activities that students can take part in that give them the broad experience of working in a complex project within a group team environment. So before we move on to the next topic of discussion, just Javier, so on your side as well, do you have many FS alumni that you're working with day to day?
Yes, I think we have quite a few. To my mind, it comes one of our Pair 4 engineers in Formula 2. I think he had some experience in Brunel University, if I'm not mistaken. But as you guys pointed out, I think the trend line here is that Formula Student is an extracurricular activity, and this is really a good test of passion. So normally people who are committed to Formula Student, because they normally don't get that much out of it, apart from the experience and the knowledge so this really means that the people that get to work to motorsport, they are prepared for it, and they really love what they do, and they're good at it.
Absolutely. So yeah, the passion that lots of people pick up for that motorsport application, it stands you in good stead for the future on this career. So before I move on to the next discussion point, I just want to remind those of you who are out there watching this evening that there's a live Q&A that will be starting around 10 to 6. You can submit questions via the web panel that you're viewing this in, and we welcome questions on any broad topic or specifically to any of the panelists that you'd like us to answer. So now we're going to try and bring the discussion more onto the specific topic of hands-on experience for working in teams. And reflecting on this, one of the things I've thought straight away is it's actually quite difficult to work in teams. As you go through university, a lot of your work is your own work, and rightly so. And there's some opportunities where you get to work in group projects. And a lot of the time, students will form groups with their friends if they're allowed to for the group projects. But Formula Student, you're put into a cohort of anything from 5 to 50 or more in the bigger teams of people who have all chosen to do something that you're all passionate about, but they're not necessarily people that you get along with or are similarly minded to. And so it prepares you for that challenge. So if I start off with you, Chris, do you have any other particularly challenging areas that you think about working in teams that Formula Student prepares the students for?
Yeah, I think that, so certainly when I was at university during my undergrad, we had one project which you completed as a group, and I think that experience kind of seems to give the impression that you have a choice as to whether you work within the team within your engineering career, right? But that isn't the case. You have to work within the team, and it's a skill that you definitely have to learn. Like you said, you might not always see eye to eye with the group or whatever, but it's definitely something which is really important, and it's the only way that kind of engineering projects get done. And so that experience that you get in Formula Student, working with people, different mindsets, different disciplines, and bringing that all together, I think is experience that that you just can't get at a university, like during your academic career, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the working it within teams, if you engage with it, then you can get the 2 + 2 = 5 or 6, and it's arranging your team to get the best strengths out of each of the people involved, and realize where people's strengths lie, and make sure their best efforts are employed in those areas. So Javier, same question to you. So what do you think is particularly most challenging about working in a team environment?
I think the main challenge is really understanding the different departments you're working with. Sometimes each department is looking for different targets. It's really important to understand what are the priorities between all of them and trying to integrate them together. I think it's kind of the same in Formula Student, especially when you start with tight budgets, as the students might know. And there are always such challenges.
Thanks, Javier. And finally, to you, Nick.
Well, yes, it's a different mix, isn't it? Working in a race team to working on a project in a university. In a university setting, you'll all be from the same department, so you'll all be mechanical engineers or all be electrical engineers. And suddenly, in Formula Student, you're exposed to the if you're a mechanical engineer, the guy who writes the software. It could be an alien as far as you're concerned. We met a very impressive team last year from Formula Student who came to visit Ferrari, and they the marketing girl sort of sat a little bit to one side while all the engineering chats were going on, and then we organised for her to meet a marketing manager for Ferrari. She disappeared off for 5 minutes, turned up in a business suit, and the whole rest of her team were quite impressed by this. That she'd been totally prepared, and she went on to give one of the most impressive business case presentations I've ever seen. And you could see that the rest of her team really reacted to this, and it brought them up a step as well. They suddenly thought, "Oh, hang on, she's not just here to go on a jolly." It was she was definitely there to do her part, and it very, very impressive. And it had an effect on the rest of the team. You could see it visibly right then and there.
Yeah, it's the ability to lift the spirits and the performance of a whole team. It's having individuals like that within teams is invaluable. And one of the things that we see at Formula Student is the spread of the size of teams. So when I competed myself back in 2006, we were a relatively small team. I think there were maybe 20 to 30 people who initially signed up, and it's probably quite a common experience for those out there that within that there was a core group of really 7 or 8 of us who really did most of the work on the car, and we were consistently there week on week to prepare for the competition. Now, working at HPP, I'm sure it's similar for you, Nick. We're in huge organisations with hundreds of people, and they are engineering machines that are, with one sole goal of sending 2 racing cars to a racing circuit every few weekends. And the challenge of coordinating the activity of all of those people and making sure that they're pushing in the same direction, the right direction at the right time, and coordinating it is huge. But I think the similar applies to the larger Formula Student teams. So particularly some of the European teams, where there's team numbers up to 80 or 100, I think, of the size of the teams, or around 50. And managing a project of that size, and it for all to be a cohesive design, as that all brings together, is a massive challenge, even in the professional environment. And so, I take my hat off to those teams that manage it successfully. But I think for those teams out there who feel a little bit disadvantaged by that, I think for those of you where you're in the small team, you get to do more elements of the competition into more detail, and so you're exposed to much more of the event, and you have the opportunity to learn and develop your many more of your skills. So I'm aware, obviously, of the similar sizes on the Ferrari side. So Javier, how large are Prema Racing?
It depends. It depends on the team because we are running in different categories. But it takes quite a bit to run each of the teams, especially because we are racing all over the world. We need to manage that the cars go to the tracks on time. We need to manage mechanics. We need to manage engineers. We need to manage the drivers. F2 teams could be around 10 people, more or less, 10, 15 people, including mechanics, people that are working in the logistics. At the end, every single one is part of the team, from the trackies to the mechanics to the engineers to the organizers of the teams, team manager. So management of at this kind of top level in motorsport engineering gets really tough. You need to ensure that everything is going to run smoothly. You don't want to have a car that is not on time delivered to the racetrack. You start to learn all these skills in Formula Student, especially the bigger the team, the higher the necessity to manage to make sure that all the departments, that all the activities are aligned. Of course, smaller teams have other difficulties. Like normally, smaller teams, in my opinion, require more technical challenges to solve. But in general, I think you can really start to get this experience if you want to bring it to if your target is to end up in motorsport. But I don't think this is something only related to motorsport, but to most of the big complex engineering companies.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on all of those points. And so then, Chris, on the Mathworks side, so Mathworks is obviously a very large organisation, and it's am I correct in saying it's a multinational global organisation?
Yeah, so Mathworks is about 5,000 people, mainly based out of Natick in Massachusetts. So in the UK, we're about 200, and in my group, we're about 25. So we don't quite have the same experience as everyone else, because we tend to provide support to customers that are using the Mathworks tools. So normally we work in much smaller groups of 2 to 3, but we definitely see a lot of the challenges that these kind of big organizations face. And quite often, the software design and things like that are at the crux of that problem.
And so if we on the final part of this topic, so on that challenge of working in teams of different sizes, what would your top tip for the students be of how to integrate well and work within a team, irrespective of the size? So if I start with you on that, please, Javier.
Well, I think it's important to understand where the team or where the company is, what the targets are. Try to understand priorities. Depending on the size of the teams, depending on the manpower, depending on the budget, not all the targets are manageable at the same time. So one of the main skills that I also learned in Formula Student, I think, was to prioritize. And something, it can be very, very, very tricky. So it requires a bit of analysis, but results are rewarding if you learn to do that in Formula Student.
Thank you. And from you, please, Chris.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to communication. I think that, making sure that there's, good lines of communication between people that are trying to do things together. Make sure you talk to each other, and find out as much as you can about what other people are doing as well. Take an interest in what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, and to you, please, Nick.
Well, it's nothing much to really add to those points, other than to keep thinking about how you can bring added value to what you do in your job. You're right, Chris, that you need to be open-minded and look and see where other people are providing that added value, and then have a think about where you can add that value. Bring something to the team which they don't have yet, and this can mean either working hard or just providing a new perspective, a new way of working into your team.
Yeah, having that fresh pair of eyes that's come out and isn't set in the ways of how a business or a team particularly works, and it can be a student coming in or someone's coming from a different company, and just having that fresh pair of eyes can be really helpful. I think even if you haven't got new staff coming in, it's a good reminder that quite often you can be so task focused that you need to just take that step back, look at the big picture, and maybe reset on how you're pursuing a particular activity or group of activities. So thank you very much for all on that section. So in preparation for the panel, I over email I asked you all to provide the top 3 things that you wished new staff joining your team would be able to do. I think, Chris, you've already covered the communication element, and absolutely couldn't agree more. Being able to communicate effectively is one of the most important aspects of your professional career. You can be the most academically bright engineer, but if you're not able to communicate your ideas effectively, or communicate within working within your local team and the broader company, it will hamstring you. Your next point was on curiosity, and so you said a desire to learn about stuff that they don't already know, and for you it was in the context of how integrating different systems is much easier when all the people have an understanding of what the other parts do. Is there anything that you want to develop on there on the curiosity side?
Yeah, I think engineering is every project now is multidisciplinary, right? So, as Nick alluded to earlier, you might have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, control engineers, all working together on the same project. And when it comes to bringing all those bits together to make a successful overall product, let's say, then it's often a case of compromise when it comes to putting all these bits together, right? And quite often, you may compromise on certain aspects of mechanical design to have an optimal electrical design or something like that. And I think that becomes much easier once everybody understands a little bit about what all the other parts are doing. It might not necessarily involve a mechanical engineer becoming an expert control engineer, for example, but taking an understanding of what they're trying to achieve and how they're trying to achieve it definitely lends itself to a better overall goal, I think.
Thank you very much. And then one of your other points was being proactive and people taking the initiative and using their common sense. So Nick, do you have any good examples of where someone's really surprised you with how proactive they were?
Sorry, that was to me.
Yeah, sorry to.
No, sorry, I didn't hear my name there. How somebody surprised me with how proactive they are. In the context of the interns that we've had over the years in the Ferrari Engineering Academy, you see, the ones who are curious and keep an open mind stick around a bit, and the ones who actually go the extra mile and start asking questions of everybody who's around them are very impressive to see. Very useful team members. We always say that curiosity is something we always look for in a new team member at Ferrari, and because everybody's got something to teach you. You can learn something, whether it's from you can listen to the technical director if you want. He might know something, but the guy operating the milling machine or the guy operating the hydraulic test rig has probably got 1,000,001 things he can tell you that will make you a better engineer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a very valuable tip for any engineer across their whole career, but particularly those starting out. Is the regardless of the size of your business, don't just sit in an ivory tower if you're in the design office or wherever you are. Is go around to all those areas of the business, understand how your product's made, talk to the machinists, understand what tools they use. It's anything that improves your understanding of the whole product life cycle for where you're particularly working will make you a better engineer, and you'll produce better designs and a better final product.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that at the moment with the COVID pandemic, we're all sitting in our own little ivory towers having Skype meetings with each other, and this kind of going around and talking to people is a much harder thing to do. So I think this is something that the engineers of the future are going to have to work hard on, is to work out how they're able to interact throughout an organization with this sort of working paradigm that we have at the moment. It's a little unfortunate.
Yeah,
it must be very difficult for the Formula student teams.
I think in the post-COVID environment, when we all hope we eventually get there. I know lots of companies are talking about no longer having the offices of the size that they are, and so working from home or working from small remote offices will become much more common. And I think the whole experience of the past few months has, with its challenges, but lots of people have realised that it is possible to collaborate remotely rather than all have to be in the same place. But it certainly has its challenges.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So Javier, obviously, your company as a group is going racing as well. How have you guys adapted to the situation we find ourselves in?
That's a very tricky question. We had to adapt like everybody else did. We had to move a lot into communicating virtually, as I think everybody did. We need to at some point pause some of our activities. We try to develop the things we were able to develop in the meantime in order to not to lose up the pace. But yeah, also in addition to what Nick said before, I think you really never know what you can learn from everybody. I think most of the judges will agree with me that year after year, edition after edition, you keep learning stuff from the students, and they always keep surprising you. So you never know who you can learn from.
Indeed. So I think I just want to go back to one of the earlier points, because I was just thinking whilst you were talking. So the whole curiosity element. I think one of the lots of times you are presented with information, and I think one of my top tips would be, particularly if you don't know the source or trust the source, is to don't take a statement or something as fact. Ask why, and in scratching at that surface and trying to get underneath, you'll find out whether you believe it or not. And then if you do believe it, so what's the underlying mechanism? Why did you get that result? Or quite often, if an experiment or a test goes wrong, understanding why it went wrong unleashes another area of development activity or understanding that you didn't have before. So do each of you have any good examples of where that endless pursuit of the reasons why has stood you in good stead? If I start with Chris on that one, please.
Yeah, I think it comes down to there's the old idiomatic expression that there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? I think certainly from my experience, colleagues are always happy to field questions about things, no matter how basic. People have to appreciate that it's impossible to be an expert in everything, and so there are always going to be gaps in knowledge, and people are more than happy to fill you in. And I certainly I think with engineers, engineers are more than happy to talk about things that they're passionate about, right? So I think that there's often been cases where what has initially been a very simple question has turned into an hour-long discussion about something as a result of that one stupid question.
Indeed. So when I did my industrial placement, I was in a chassis on road cars at Nissan's Technical Centre in Cranfield, just down the road from me. And within my team, so my official mentor was a senior engineer in the department, but like lots of managers of teams within engineering companies, he was in endless meetings and very, very busy. But I was fortunate to have a guy called Mike Foxton, who he worked for March back in the 70s,
Wow.
and then his career had gone from racing into he worked for sorry, it escapes me now. I should remember it. On the first Mazda MX-5, so he was instrumental in the Mazda MX-5 being double wishbone suspension front and back. He fought the good fight with the to make sure that a sports car like that had double wishbone suspension. And then he'd ended up at Nissan as he was working towards retirement. And I used to go and have a coffee with him every single day. We had a coffee break in the morning, and without fail, I'd go and have a coffee with him and pick his brain. I learned so much from the year of having coffees with him. It's just it was a huge wealth of knowledge.
I think
any good examples? Sorry, Nick. So it was just on that
Okay.
pursuit, the endless curiosity. So you keep on asking why, or where something's gone wrong and you've learned something that surprised you, but it's spurred you onto something new.
No, it's interesting. There's a management consultant I was talking to a few years ago who told us all about the concept of the 5 whys, and he said he only put 5 whys on the slide because he couldn't fit 7. And the idea is just his idea was just to keep asking why is that, why is that, why is that. And any of you who've ever had a small child know that this is a technique they use very successfully to learn, and it's wonderful in engineering as well. I mean, in a practical way, there was a project I worked on years and years ago when we first put a seamless shift gearbox into the Formula One car, which is the gear change where you engage the next gear before you finish using the old gear. Now, all F1 cars have this, but back in the early 2000s, I think only McLaren ever really had one. And we built one. First of all, I remember sitting in a meeting and somebody was saying, "Well, how can we work out how this thing is going to work? We have what's the effect on the car? We have a very enthusiastic, optimistic 20-year-old who's got himself a design. What's the effect on the car?" So I said, "Well, okay, we can make ourselves a dragster style gearbox that's going to you put this into a Formula One car, and a dragster gearbox changes gear seamlessly by engaging the next gear and shoves out the old gear automatically. You can't get it to change down, but if you're just doing upshifts, you can keep doing this." And we took it to the test track, and we spent a huge amount of money, as we did back in the early 2000s. Took it to the test track and ran it, and we looked at the data. And we thought, hang on a minute, the car is actually accelerating at each gear change. You could see it. You could see the graph going along, and there was this little step change in the vehicle speed. Why is that? What? I mean, we just didn't even understand this. We kept asking this question: why? And I was with one of the simulation engineers we had at the time was a guy called Anton Stepinovic, who I'm sure Javier might have come across from. He runs simulators in Italy now. And Anton and I asked ourselves this question, and we finally worked out that all we were doing was basically connecting the inertia of the engine to the inertia of the car. And by slowing down the engine each time, the energy had to go somewhere, and it speeded the car up. Now, the reason I mention this is not that it was actually instrumental in developing the seamless shift gearbox. It's just that we took that knowledge and built the rest of the gear change strategy around that. So that something that nobody had ever really looked at before, certainly at Ferrari, was the elastic properties of the gearbox, and we managed to make a gear change that was so much faster that within a year we were changing gear in 0.1 of a second. And my lovely new invention of a seamless shift gear change actually was worth very, very little, because we gained 2/3 of the gain already just by looking at that one test that went wrong. So does that answer the question? Sorry, a bit of a long way.
No, it does. Yeah, very interesting example. And so to you, Javier. So yeah, any example on your side?
To be honest, not that I can remember at the moment. I was trying to think in the meantime, but not anyone that I can pick at the moment. No.
Okay, no problem. So we'll be moving on to the live Q&A shortly. For the last discussion topic amongst us. So Nick, one of the items that you highlighted as your top 3 skills or attributes for students to have was to have the good balance of practical and academic success. So I think that really is the strength of forming a student. So it gives you the opportunity to pull together all of what you're learning in your academic studies and put that into practice on a complex engineering project. But not only that, draw in the requirements of working for a company or a business. So ultimately, most professions where you go to work, as I was saying earlier on, for Nick, Javier and I, it's ultimately about going racing so many weekends a year and measuring yourself in lap time. Yeah. And that, everything is against lap time. And for other people, you're working to develop and sell a product, and it's you have a budget, you have a cost, and so you have to have the commercials correct. You have to operate within that budget. So on that final point of the practical experience that Formula Student gives the students competing, which element, or is there a particular element or aspect that you think really shines out from the whole competition to aid with that? And I'll start with you, Javier, on that.
So as I said before, I think the trend line is commitment and passion. Yeah, the fact that this is an extracurricular activity, everybody's trying to do their best. Nobody's forced to do that. They are doing out of passion. They just want to learn. One of the main relevant skills also is, as we discussed before, teamwork. For first time in your university studies, you're integrating with other teams. You're not doing just homework with 2-3 students. You're trying to understand the necessities from other departments, be it suspension, be it powertrain, chassis. You need to really integrate, put it together for the first time. I think this is one of the main challenges. And of course, as discussed also previously, the proactivity, the technical knowledge. I think it comes together. It's the curiosity, it's the will to know more, to make questions. I don't think there is any possible stupid question. You can always get some information, some more knowledge. I like to have I have a very cool relationship with some of the mechanics on my team, and there's always things we can learn from each other. So really, sharing knowledge is always a benefit from a team, especially from people that can bring you different perspectives, different opinions, different knowledges. And yeah, I think those will be the 3 main assets I would say from Formula Student. And to be honest, in addition to that, yep.
Thanks, Javier.
Yeah,
and on your side?
Yeah, I think on what Nick said about having a balance of practical engineering and theory, I can certainly relate to that. When I was doing my PhD, so I'd completed my undergrad degree in engineering science, and one of the things I had to do was build a test rig for something, and I had to drop some mechanical drawings. And then I had a very chastening conversation with one of the workshop technicians who was going to be making my experimental test rig. And as Javier said, you learn a lot. You got to have that balance. And And in Formula Student, having a tangible output, which is something that you can hold in your hands, really is important, I think. And I think it's something which you don't get on a typical engineering course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to move on to the live Q&A. I've seen we've had some interesting questions coming already. Looking on the screen, I'm going to start off with the first one, which is really a continuation of some of the themes that I've seen on social media over this weekend and played out on some of the broadcasts of people's FS memories. So I've seen lots of great photos circulated from the years before. And so the question from Leon Marino from Portugal is, what's your favourite memory from your Formula Student time, or your particular experience of Formula Student? And so I think I'll start off on this one. And I often say to people who ask about it, and say, what's your proudest, what you're most proudest of in life or achievements? And sitting in 2006 when we were competing in Class 1, I was fortunate to get to drive the car for the first time, and all the hard work and effort that had gone into that, the blood, the sweat, the tears over the 18 months of doing that. And you fire the car up and you drive something round, and just that, we made this, and I'm getting to drive around. It's not that you went to a showroom, you bought a car off the peg. It's the product of all that work and that effort. And that continues now into both my time at Flybridge, when we developed the hybrid system that went racing at Le Mans. That was the first time I had the experience of watching trackside and seeing something design go around the circuit, and you have immense pride for that, but also the fear of God within you that if the thing that you design breaks, it's all on you. It's all on you. So it's a bizarre mix of the two. So I'll start off for you, Nick. So what's your favourite Formula Student memory?
Well, I was unfortunate enough that I didn't really do Formula Student. I think it wasn't promoted at my university. I think it only started here in '98, didn't it? So I was graduated in '98. But I have one lovely memory that springs to mind. It's rather unfortunate for the team involved, but I remember going into their garage at Formula Student Italy in 2016, and a whole bunch of people came running out to go and talk to the recruiting guy from Ferrari, and in the background I could see their car starting to smoke. I said, guys, your car, it's smoking. No, don't worry about it. It does that all the time. No, really, it's starting to smoke. And they turned around, and these poor chaps, they had their battery on fire. And the next thing I saw, there was a guy coming out of the garage with a huge pair of gloves and smoking battery. But the reason to mention this is that the next day we went to find them and to apologize profusely for having somehow set off a fire in their garage, and to find that they've worked absolutely flat out all night, and they got the car cleaned up and sorted out and a new battery in, and they ran again the next day. And that's brilliant. You can't put a price on that.
Yeah, things like that are beyond amazing. So in faced with adversity like that people are able to pull through. And often, that I imagine that not only within the team, but we've seen many examples over the years where someone might have an accident on the practice area or breakage whilst they're trying to get through scrutineering, and the rest of the teams, the help, both in parts or people or knowledge, to be able to for that team to get their car repaired and running again. Fierce competitors on track, but the environment within the pits and amongst the teams is fantastic. So Javier, what's your favourite Formula Student memory?
I was tempted to go with one of the funny ones, but then I think I'm going with one of the nicest one, which was back in Formula Student 2015. It was in Spain, Formula Student Spain 2015. And the first time we got into the Formula Student, I got into the Formula Student competition and saw the event, the other 80 or 90 teams, all the people running the boxes, and saw the full competition there. I really didn't get the feeling of it until I got there, and it was there that I saw how huge it was. And it was then when, for me, motorsport started to become a reality. Only there it was that cheap, and then I saw it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do for my life.
Guess when you saw your whole future ahead of you.
Yep. Yeah. People not sleeping and working out, working in the boxes at 8, 9 in the night until they closed. Waking up at 6, 7 for the driver briefings, trying to fix stuff that were breaking in order to pass the scrutineering.
Yeah.
all this, the beauty of motorsports.
And it doesn't change when you go up.
No.
And it just continues. It's perfect preparation for that, and for some reason we keep on doing it to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so, Chris, what's your favourite experience or memory from your involvement with Formula Student?
Yeah, so I never took part in Formula Student when I was when I was at university, but I do have a Formula Student story in that when I was doing my PhD, which was with Nick at Ferrari. I actually said to my PhD supervisor, this Formula Student thing, it's really good. Why don't we do it? And he's like, oh, no, nobody's actually, we just don't have anyone to kind of supervise it, an academic to supervise it. And whether this is coincidence or not, the very next year they brought in an academic who actually started the Formula Student team at Oxford. So I like to think it's down to my involvement that Formula Student exists in Oxford. It's probably not, and it's probably pure coincidence, but I'm taking credit for it nonetheless.
Yeah, an instrumental pillar, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Thank you. So we've had some slightly comedic questions come in as well, but I'll throw these into the mix. So first of all, for Nick, and I'm not sure why this is specifically addressed at you, but this is from Martin Price from out west. Cherries or strawberries with cream? Do you recognise the name? Can you explain the context of the question?
Okay, I must admit I don't recognize the name, but here in this part of Italy, we're famous for our cherries. So the cherries from Vignola are just down the road are the best in the whole world, and the season has just finished, and we're all crying because the the cherry season's over for another year. They are good.
Okay,
you can't beat a nice English strawberry.
Is it cherries with cream, or what's the preferred?
No, just naked as the day they were born. But I tell you what, I do miss my English strawberries. The ones we get here are not the same.
No, but I'll take the Italian coffee. We can do a swap.
I'll send you a pack over.
Okay, and then next question. So another one from Leon in Portugal. So to Javier, what do you think is the most important skill to be a successful engineer in Formula 2?
For sure, as I said, commitment, but not only to Formula 2, but to any motorsport team. What you know about motorsport is absolutely true. There are endless hours of work behind. You need to love what you're doing, because sometimes the sport really tests yourself. And I think, especially now with the situation with the pandemic, everybody is going to try to get a place there. It has always been a very competitive place where not so many spots available, not so many opportunities, and a lot of people trying to get there. So I think just passion, commitment, try to be the best you can, and don't give up until you get there, because at the end it pays off.
Absolutely, yeah. Pursue your dreams. If you have a dream like that, make that first step and start going after it. Because if you don't make that first step, it will never come. But just pursue it relentlessly. And if you have the talent and the tenacity, then it will come. It might not come in the form that you expect, but it will arrive. So we have about 5 minutes left on the panel discussion. So I'd like to wrap up with a question that's just come in that I think closes this off nicely. So it's a question for all three of you. What would you like to see for the future of Formula Student? And I'll start with Chris on that, please.
Yeah, I think I'd really like to see more on the electrification front. I think that's obviously a growing trend in automotive. and certainly we've been seeing, a lot of electrification projects kick off, and I think that, it's going to be the future. It's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what Formula Student comes up with or carries on with.
Absolutely. Yeah. The electric vehicle category has been a strong part of Formula Student for a number of years, and we just see an increasing trend of the number of entries. Cost is a difficult area for that. There's a barrier to entry to some of the smaller teams, but as electrification proliferates, there are many more companies out there now, and just the cost of batteries, the cost of the power electronics, they're coming down, and more teams are able to engage with that and get those skills that are going to stand them in good stead out in industry. So Nick, on your side, any thoughts on where you'd like to see Formula Student go?
Well, electrification is interesting, but I'm not utterly convinced it's the future of all powertrains for automotive. So I think I'd be interested in more diversification, hydrogen powertrains, hydrogen fuel cells, maybe lots of different different ways of powering cars would be interesting. I'm not sure. Do you have any diverse categories like that at the moment?
So yes, we did, and so as a mechanical engineer, I agree completely. The internal combustion engine is not dead yet, but there are lots of other ounces other than electrification of getting to that on the green technologies. And when we first introduced an alternative fuels category, it was a very, very broad rule book, and we had an internal combustion engine running on hydrogen. And we've had a mixture of different electric hybrid vehicles. We will even allow diesel powertrain, so you could do a diesel series hybrid if you wanted to. And we've always said that if a team has a proposal for an inventive powertrain that they want to bring, then make a proposal to us. We'll consider it, and we'll work out a balance of performance so that you can compete on track with the internal combustion cars and the electric vehicles together.
Excellent. That's brilliant. I mean, I know I'm probably not allowed to mention the name, but there is another competition out there for student vehicles where they have 20 or so different classes of fuel in for the Shell Eco Marathon. And they have so many different things, and I know it's what their concept is based on is the power unit, but you see some interesting solutions there, and I'd be very interested to see Formula Student diversify a little in that way.
Yeah, and we would welcome suggestions from any of the teams of different powertrains they would like to bring. So we're certainly not trying to shoehorn competitors into either just IC or just that you must do electric vehicles only from now on. We're open to what's out there. And so Javier, finishing off on your side. So obviously you have broad experience on Formula Student. Where would you like to see it in the next 5 years?
I think one of the beauties of Formula Student is that rules are not so close like it is in most motorsport categories. And Formula Student team, I mean, I will be looking forward to seeing innovation like some teams are doing lately, be it in suspension systems, being in the powertrain, in mechanical design. I mean, it's really astonishing. And I mean, most of the motorsport categories are pretty limited. I mean, like TDIS, you guys have done an amazing work there, Dan. And every time I go to a Formula Student competition, and I see a new solution, I keep amazing myself on how the brains of the students sometimes can be racked. I mean, it's really, really astonishing.
Thank you. So we as organisers, and I think for those the students out there, I'm sure we'll all promise to continue to attempt to surprise you with with what we bring in future years. So that draws this section of this evening to a close. I want to say thank you very much to all three of you. It's been a very interesting discussion. great to have you part this evening. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully seeing you all at our event next year once we can get back to normal service.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
congratulations to all the students and the organization.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to the awards announcement for this evening. Before introducing into there, I asked Lucy to prepare some stats for me of different things that have happened this year. It's been a very strange year of going from, in late March, still expecting to be at Silverstone this weekend, and then realising that we couldn't be there, and just what all of the organisers, judges and volunteers have had to put in place for this weekend. So as part of this virtual event, we've introduced 2 brand new events, one within the statics, so with the simulation development within FSAI, and within the virtual dynamic events, to ensure that we kept an educational aspect, we introduced a lap time simulation event using chassis sim software, as well as all the fun we've had over the last 2 days with the online sim racing. The number of volunteers that we've had involved in judges, so there were 95 static event judges, 18 for the business presentation, 12 for FSAI, 14 cost judges, and then huge task for design with a number of entrants that we had, so a total of 51 design judges. And then this next stat blew me away. 442 individual meetings scheduled via MS Teams for the statics days on Thursday and Friday. And then even more amazingly from there is, out of all of that, there were only 3 IT help desk tickets raised in the whole time. And it had the potential to go spectacularly wrong. IT or whatever else can often have you over, but it didn't. It ran almost seamlessly, both Thursday, Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday on the dynamic. So I've been hugely impressed of how the event has gone, and thankful to all of you out there who have made it possible and made it happen. So as we now run into the awards, so we're announcing the award winners for the individual areas of the competition and the overall winners tonight. The full list of results will be posted online, and that will happen around 10 o'clock this evening, UK time. Each of the winners will be contacted in the next few days, and we'll be posting the trophies out to you in the coming weeks. For each of you, there'll be a certificate of participation. And so each of the team members on your team list will be contacted about that in the coming weeks, where you want those posted to, and to make sure that we've got your name correct on those before we print them and send those out. And so now moving on to what you've all been waiting for, finding out which teams have won the different disciplines and different events, and the overall winner. Starting off with a message from one of our ambassadors, William Tote. So I had the opportunity to commentate on or do an interview on the stream yesterday, and was very pleased to see William drop in straight after me. He's been an instrumental part of the competition for a number of years now, and I know the students all love the time that he gives to them, and how he engages with it and makes a complex topic both interesting and easier for them to understand. So we'll hand over to Willem now for his message, please.
Hello, Willem Tote here. Formula Student is my favourite educational competition. And in these difficult circumstances that we all find ourselves in, with the pandemic going around the world, I was really pleased to see the IMACE have tried, and I believe truly succeeded in making this competition work. Okay, it's different. We've all had to learn some slightly different skills, both for the static and for the dynamic events, but I think it's worked really, really well, and I'm just so pleased that this has worked. And I think you are all winners competing in this competition because you have learnt new skills that will give you a better chance of getting a job outside in the world. Thank you. Well done, everyone.
Wise words as ever there from Willem. Thank you very much for sending those in. And so, running into the announcement of the winners of the individual awards, we start off as usual with the special awards, and we have this evening two to announce. We have the Craig Dawson Award and the Faculty Advisor Award. So the Craig Dawson Award is for the most valuable team member. And the award's named for a former FS competitor who I was very fortunate to compete against in 2006 at Bruntingthorpe, although I was on the receiving end of a drubbing on his endurance run where Brooks won the endurance that year, and he was two-wheeling it around corners with one of the most committed drives that many of us have ever seen within Formula Student. So he was a former student competitor, faculty advisor and commentator. He worked on early Oxford Brooks cars, and although he sadly passed away in 2011, the award reflects the passion and enthusiasm that Craig had for Formula Student and for motorsport in general. It's one thing for a Formula Student competitor to act as a section head, help their teammates design and develop the car, never miss deadlines, laying the groundwork for knowledge transfer, and even finding time for their university work, remembering that we're all there to get degrees first and foremost. However, that's taken to another level when that person is doing all of this while making regular hospital appointments to undergo chemotherapy. So despite all of this year's winner has never given up, never fussed, kept up a great sense of humour, and has continuously worked to overcome these challenges and work on their team's car, even to the point where the rest of the team have banned them multiple times from their workshop. We're told that this person is an inspiration and a motivation to the team and to those who know him. And for these reasons, we are delighted to award this year's Craig Dawson Most Valuable Team Member Award to Callum Lowry from University of Portsmouth's UP Racing Electric. Many congratulations to you, Callum. Very well deserved, and like the rest of the organising committee and the students out there, we hope that you're on the road to recovery and that you managed to get into remission with that battle. On to now the Faculty Advisor Award. So, like the Craig Dawson Award, the Faculty Advisor of the Year recognises the time, energy and effort that a faculty advisor gives throughout the year. For many, a faculty advisor can be the difference between managing to finish a car on time and doing well, and not doing that, assembling the car in the pits or not even getting to the competition. We received several excellent nominations from teams this year, and it's a shame that there was only one award to give out. But there has to be a winner, and for this year's winner, there is no such thing as going the extra mile, as they consider it a part of their duty to support their students, volunteering time at weekends and late nights in order to ensure that they succeed while making sure that their physical and mental well-being is looked after. This was taken to the extreme last year when they spent their first wedding anniversary at the Formula Student campsite in 2019. A very dangerous thing to indeed to do. So, this year's winner is described as the life and soul of the team, who is always there with a smile on their face and a cup of tea in their hand, ready to listen and to help. Students say that their faculty advisor is proof that hard work, dedication, and a willingness to learn can achieve results. And without the atmosphere of togetherness that this faculty advisor has helped create, the team would not be in the position that they are today. This faculty advisor is an outstanding example of the positive impact that a faculty advisor can have on young engineers. And we are delighted to award this year's Faculty Advisor of the Year award to Martin Dunn from Staffordshire University. Many congratulations, Martin. Very well deserved from all the comments that came in from your team on that submission. Before we move on to the next section, we'd like to take this moment for a special mention for Charlie Humphreys. So He was the faculty advisor for Oxford Brookes Racing, and he sadly passed away in April this year from coronavirus. His efforts over the years were greatly appreciated by the team, and he's sadly missed by all the students who knew him and those who got to work with him as part of both the university and a former student in general. So yeah, it's a sad moment. Lots of us have known people, or either directly or friends of friends, who have been affected by this global pandemic, and it's hopefully we will see the other side of it soon. We now move on to the winners of the virtual dynamic events, starting off with, forgive me whilst I find the right piece of paper in front of me. So the virtual dynamic events this year were obviously quite challenging to put on, not being able to have the track out there, and for us to develop something that gave still the students an educational experience, but were also fun for them to compete in, because we know that's why a lot of students compete in Formula Student. Yeah, the hook is motorsport, being able to take your car and compete out on track, and having that competition against the other teams. And a key part of that package of events that we put together was the new event I mentioned earlier, so lap time simulation, using software provided by a company called Chassis Sim. And I'd like to say a big thank you to Danny Nolan for providing both the software for the teams to use, and also the support, technical support, often at very, very short notice, either with questions coming in from myself or from the teams as we were working towards the deadlines. Within the lap time simulation competition, we looked to recreate all of the aspects of the dynamic events. It was challenging to do the endurance, so that's where the sim racing that we've had yesterday and today came in. But for the acceleration skid pad and for the sprint, we were able to recreate these virtually within the software. And so in the lap time simulation, we had both the acceleration and the skid pad, which was all students tuning different parameters available to them within the car, with the goal of achieving the lowest time and best score for each of the events. And then for the sprint, they used the software initially to develop a setup for use in the sprint event, but then with the driver in the loop portion of the software, they then took their setup and drove it on a recreation of our Formula Student sprint track, and had to submit a video demonstrating their best times using that software, and have that link of learn about the link of a fast car isn't necessarily the easiest car to drive, but if you have the talent of the driver, you can drive around that. It's possible to get the time, but engineering a car in a way that the driver can easily and consistently extract the best lap time out of it. So it's been very interesting for us to develop that, and I'm sure that all the students who took part in that have found it a very rewarding experience, and something that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do this year without putting it on. So moving on to the announcement of the winners for the different sections. So the lap time simulation acceleration winner. So in 2019, the best real world time was 4.02 seconds, which came from the Modena Reggio Emilia. Fallen over that one terribly. This year, the results are incredibly close, with less than half a second covering first and 19th place. And I say it was set up as a quarter mile sprint rather than the normal 0 to 75 meters that we have at Formula Student. And so with the time of 12.143 seconds, the winner is Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Congratulations, Hong Kong. So moving on to the LTS skid pad winner. Again, very, very closely fought in this area. There's less than half a second separating first to sixth positions. In 2019, the best real life time was 5.025 seconds. And in the virtual event, because it was driven by the simulator, we didn't have to worry about the consistency of the completing both hands of the figure of 8. So we just took it as an overall total event time. So you still had steady state and with the transient of transitioning between the two hands. And so with a overall time of 10.205 seconds, the winner is Cardiff University. Many congratulations to Cardiff. And for the final aspect of the lap time simulation, driver in the loop, is the winner of the sprint. In this case, forgive me 1 second, I'm on a printout and I can't see it very clearly. I need to make sure I'm on the right cell before I announce the wrong thing. So with a winning time of 36.01 seconds, winning by just 0.06 of a second from our previous winner, Cardiff University, the winner of the driver in the lorry sprint is University of Hertfordshire. I have to say it's very strange doing this and not having a swarm of students coming up to you each time, bouncing up and down the stage and making a loud noise. Because we had done the lap time simulation of the sprint element of the competition, we also had the opportunity to recreate our Formula Student Silverstone track for use in Assetto Corsa. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to Joanne Mystery, who, if you've been watching the streams, you'll have seen today, not only is an amazingly talented designer of tracks within Assetto Corsa, is also bloody handy behind the wheel of a sim rig, and frustratingly quick for the rest of us who were competing. So it was with his work of recreating the Formula Student Silverstone track that we were able to put on a virtual sprint event. It was too large to run and fit into the schedule, so we had an initial qualifying or pre-submission by video, and then we had a top 10 runoff today where there were up to 10 bonus points available for the winner of the runoff. And with an overall time then of 48.34 seconds and no cones hit, the winner of the Assetto Corsa sprint is Oxford Brookes University. So congratulations to Oxford Brookes. So I reviewed personally all of the video submissions to go through to count cones and make sure that it was fair and consistent in how we applied the cone penalties. And the lap that you put in was, I had to slow it down and go pixel by pixel, frame by frame on several occasions, but it genuinely was zero cones hit. But you got that lap time by driving very, very close and accurately to the cone. So congratulations on that. I need to refer back now to my running schedule, make sure I'm not skipping anything over. So over the last 2 days, Saturday and today, we ran an equivalent of the endurance. With the limitations within the software, it wasn't possible to recreate an endurance experience with the FS Silverstone track. So we looked to do something a little bit different. We had qualifying heats with a number of different car and track combinations yesterday, which I'm sure those who have watched the stream will have seen. They were hugely entertaining. And it was a whole day jam-packed full of different action and competitive racing up and down the field. And so then it was a points-based system from qualifying where you finished in the heats, and that was used to set the grid for the finals today. We had a D final, C, B, all the way through to an A final, and there was an opportunity for the top 2 places from the previous final to join the back of the grid for the next final. And I think we did have a couple of teams who started won or came second in a previous final, and then did competitively in the final above. For the A final, I was fortunate to be directing the cameras going through, and I didn't know where to watch. I turned the cameras to a lot of the time. We had action through the field, and there was very, very tight racing. But at the end of that all, the winner of the endurance event, or the A final for this year, was Liverpool John Moores University. Congratulations to you. So, with all of these individual aspects, we now see how that all shook out of into the overall vehicle. It's a virtual dynamic events winner. Looking at find my piece of paper. So very, very tight at the top in terms of in terms of the scores. So less than 50 points spread from first to fifth, but with a winning overall score of 566.6, it is the University of Hertfordshire. Congratulations, Hertfordshire, and big thank you to everybody who engaged and took part in the virtual dynamic events. It was a lot of hard work for us all to put on, but it was great to see you all out there racing on track, and give us that opportunity to see you all competing against each other this weekend. Just not how we expected. So we now move on to present the awards for the static elements of the competition, and we're starting with FSAI, which is sponsored by Babcock. The awards will be announced by Holly Watson now, who is the head FSAI static events judge, and Mark Hassel will also be joining us as a head business plan presentation judge. So FSAI is a new event that's been running for a couple of years, and it's split down into this year in the virtual events into 4 different classes. So we have the autonomous design ADS class, and it's the greatest challenge of integrating your own vehicle with robotics, sensors, and computers to support your team's self-driving software. We then have the autonomous design DDT class, which is supported by the IMEC DDT vehicle, where teams develop their own self-driving software stack using everything from localization and perception to path planning and vehicle control. We then have the real-world AI event, which assesses the students' understanding of the state-of-the-art in the autonomous vehicle industry, and it's an opportunity to hear the students' ideas for the self-driving cars of the future. And finally, there is the simulation development event, which was a new competition for this year. With lack of access to the real vehicles, simulations have never been so essential. And the teams had the opportunity to show off their simulations, allowing them to continue their software development through tough times. And we look forward to seeing that the products of that software development at next year's event. So before we bring Holly into the stream, we have a short video from Babcock, please.
Hi, my name's Steve Pember. I'm the Group Head of Data and Analytics at Babcock International. We at Babcock just want to say how proud we are to be engaged in an event such as Formula Student. We think this is a really exciting competition that tests the creative and technical capabilities of graduate engineers. In particular, we're really pleased to be able to support the AI class. We see AI as a major area of innovation and development in the field of engineering. throughout the whole of the asset lifecycle to be able to support design, to improve the outputs and stop physical prototyping, which speeds up the process and creates efficiencies, but also throughout the support and operation of the asset to properly understand performance and enable us to maintain the asset better and make better decisions. So with that, we're really looking forward to the outputs from all of the hard work which has gone in by each of the teams. We know that it's been really challenging this year, and most of you have been forced to work virtually, but we just want to say here at Babcock, best of luck to you all in each of your entries. Many thanks.
And so now I'm delighted to welcome Holly to announce the winners for the different sections of the FSAI competition. Good evening, Holly. We have no audio. Are you on mute?
Let me just check.
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you now. No, it's gone again.
Is that better?
Yes.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you very much, Dan. FSAI this year has been a very special competition. We've nearly doubled the entry list of teams up to 7 this year, and the quality of the competition has been at such a high level. So I think the students should be all very proud of what they've submitted. So without further ado, I'm going to announce some winners. The winner of the Autonomous Design ADS class event is Edinburgh University. So well done, guys. Well done. Fantastic. We move on to the winner of the Autonomous Design DDT class event is Oxford Brookes Autonomous Racing. Congratulations, guys. Fantastic. So the winner of the Real World AI event is Ain University team. Congratulations, guys. First time entry for this year, so well done. So now I'm going to hand over to Mark to present the next award.
Hi, thank you. So, thank you to the 6 teams that took part in FSAI business presentations this year. You all did very well producing and submitting your presentations under current conditions. The judges enjoyed watching them, and they asked me to pass on their thanks for all the effort you put in. With respect to the winner, the judges described the presentation as having a good overview of the concept, with clarity in terms of the product, how to produce it, and how to market it to the target audience. It was a high-quality presentation that maximized the time available and made valuable use of a multitude of visual aids that build confidence, and it professionally handling questions, giving new and valuable additional information to explain your answers. So it's well done to car 143 Oxford Brookes Autonomous Racing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Fantastic.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Brilliant. So here we get to the overall winners. So with an excellent understanding of their system, the overall winner of the ADS class this year is Edinburgh University Formula Student AI team. Congratulations. Fantastic. And so the overall winner of the DDT class, with again an excellent understanding of their system, is Oxford Brookes Autonomous Racing. And so brand new for this year, the winner of the Simulation Development event is also Oxford Brookes Autonomous Racing.
Thank you very much, Holly. Congratulations to all of the winners there, and thank you for your efforts for this year's competition, Holly. It was when we had the call in March we tasked you with can we have our FSAI competition virtually within simulation? And you assuredly said you could, and you delivered that faultlessly. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for joining us this evening. And so now we move on in the schedule to announcing the winners for the virtual static events for the normally driven side of the competition. Starting off, each of these awards will be announced by the head judge for each section, and we're starting off with engineering design. And I asked each of the judges head judges to send in a factoid or something interesting to introduce them. And so starting off from Neil was it's another stat and something. It's not the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last time, unfortunately. So did you know the maximum number of pages allowed for the design report is 8? It's been that for many years and remains the same for next year. This year, the record, the largest page count received was 108, so out by 100 from the 8 that was required. This was from a UK South Coast university whose local town is famous for Katie Price, Fatboy Slim, and Holly Willoughby. Not necessarily in that order. So on that interesting stat, I'd like to welcome Neil Anderson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Neil Anderson, and I'm the head design judge for Formula Student. I'm coming to you from my workshop here in Ireland, and it's a shame we can't all be assembled together for what is traditionally an awesome awards ceremony. However, the last 2 days have hopefully proved that you can work remotely, and you can even do Formula Student remotely. I think everybody will be in agreement that the judges as well as the students have put in quite a lot of work. Over the last 2 days, we've had something like 295 individual meetings. We've seen 1,500 or so students with 50 judges. And it's fair to say we've all been fairly well impressed by the standard of the entry. This year was quite different in that you don't have a physical car to show us. The event, which is slightly different, has concentrated on a conceptual design and this is the important bit, a plan to progress that to a running vehicle in 2021. A number of traditionally top-end teams did forget this plan requirement, it seems. So without further ado, I will just announce the winner. The judges' comments simply: impressive all round, faultlessly organised with data-driven decisions. They considered their budget on every count. They were very well prepared for the Q&A sessions and indeed represent a very worthy winner. So, Car 77, the Indian Institute of Technology from Bombay. Excellent, well done. Look forward to seeing you with a running vehicle next year. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the ceremony.
Thank you, Neil, and congratulations to IIT Bombay. So they've been a competitor since 2009 at Formula Student, and they have a long history of competing with strong mid-table results. We think this is their first attempt at an electric powertrain, and so to pull that all together into something that could win the design competition is a fantastic achievement. Very, very well done to all of you there. We now move on to the cost of manufacturing area, and John didn't send me anything individually to prepare for this event, but we had lots of discussions over WhatsApp going through as he was marking the different reports. And I think one of the things that stood out, we had keeping it topical for what all of us are dealing with at the moment. There was an aspect to the event of how you would produce products to help NHS and other examples in your country, and where there were some underhand teams, shall we say, who were putting a significant markup on the face masks that they were producing to sell onto the team. There's a lesson in capitalism and economics in there, which I'm sure John might want to touch on in a debrief with you in future. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce and welcome John Dangerfield.
Hi Dan, thanks very much. And thanks ever so much for such a great competition. It really has been exceeded all expectations, and I've truly enjoyed it, especially the wacky races. And I'm still not sorry for taking you out in the 49s. Moving straight on to the cost and manufacturing finals. We heard a lot earlier from the panelists about the fantastic engineering applications and how Formula students so useful for the future. Hopefully the cost of manufacturing events giving you a bit of a flavour for cost targets, cost avoidance and cost control, because I guarantee in the real world these are going to become even more important in a post-COVID world as well. So without further ado, I'd like to announce the top 3 positions from the cost of manufacturing event for 2020. In 3rd position is car number 6, University of Aberdeen. In 2nd position is car number 8, University of Hertfordshire. And I'm really, really pleased with the winners of this because it shows that our class system from concept class, was class 2 last year, through to class 1 actually does work. So the class 2 winners from last year's cost event are now this year's cost of manufacturing champions. That is car 13, University of Portsmouth.
Thank you very much, John. I think we'll have to settle the sim racing over a beer some other time, or a rematch. But yeah, and congratulations to Portsmouth on your win in the cost of manufacturing event. Thank you very much, John. Catch you soon.
Bye.
And so now we move on to the business plan and presentation award. I'm just referring to my phone now because we're welcoming back Mark in a second. He advises me that there was a total video submissions from the teams was around 12 hours, with each judge having to view approximately 5 hours of footage. Of our 16 judges, only 1 is currently employed in the automotive industry, with most having a defence, aerospace or nuclear background. I think that's a really good point for demonstrating participation in Formula Student isn't just about people wanting to go into motorsport or automotive. As we were discussing in the panel session earlier on, the skills and experiences it gives you within Formula Student stands you in great stead for a career in engineering in many, many different sectors and avenues. So I'd like to welcome Mark back to join us to announce the winner of the business plan and presentation. Welcome, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I also just want to say what a fantastic event it's been, and thank you to all the competitors, but also thank you to my team of judges who've helped out. Partly because we've had 63 teams who submitted as a business plan presentation this year, and the judges were very impressed with the quality of those and the way that competitors approached this competition with presentations that could be delivered remotely. So well done everybody who took part. You should be immensely proud of yourselves. As for the winning team, well, the judges reported to me that it was a very well prepared and extremely professional presentation, both in the submitted presentation and the Q&A session. They were very enthusiastic, you were well spoken, and you knew your vehicle and your business model inside and out. You delivered a solid, well evidenced and logical approach to their business proposal, and the judges were very impressed. They particularly liked the fact that you sent them a little thank you note after the live session. So without further ado, it's well done again to Car 13, University of Portsmouth.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I agree your sentiments. It's been a fantastic competition. Thanks for your support as ever on this area and all of your judges and volunteers within your team. So an interesting result. So Portsmouth with a second static event win there. So that leads us nicely into the question of who is the overall static events winner for Formula Student Virtual 2020. And so in 3rd place with 340 points. Despite the 2 previous wins, it's University of Portsmouth again. In second place, with 343.19 points, it's the University of Hertfordshire, and which means in first place with a grand total of 353.57 points, the winner is car 221, University of Bath. Big congratulations to Team Bath Racing there. So just a reminder, as I said at the opening to this, that all the winners we've announced this evening will receive a trophy via post, and the full list of winners is going to be published on the website around 10 o'clock British Standard Time this evening. So looking down at my minute-by-minute schedule, I'm a minute over, which I think I've done a reasonable job to hold on to there. So we've got a final few minutes to try and draw this to a close. When I took over the role of Chief Judge from Terry last year, I never expected that it was going to be the circumstance. When I was talking to you all this evening, could never have foreseen the circumstances, both of the competition that we've had over the last 4 days, and talking to you all this evening in this format. I'd like to thank Mathworks for their ongoing partnership and support of Formula Student and their sponsorship of this awards ceremony this evening. And to extend thanks to the rest of our partners and sponsors, judges, volunteers, IMechE organising staff. The event would not have been possible, as always, without all the hard work, effort and contribution that you put in. We've had new volunteers come in different areas that we've just not had before. So on the sim racing side, with the support on the sprint track, and for the guys running the servers behind the scenes today. And I think one of the comments we had from Nick at High Vis after we ran through Saturday was, I've done a lot of esports events and we've never had one that's run to time. Yours is the first that's happened. So yeah, big congratulations to all of you involved with that. And before we came into the award ceremony this evening, I asked just for some fast feedback, just saying, have we heard anything on the social channels that are out there? So there was a snippet sent to me. So first of all, from Staffordshire University. So it says, regardless of the result, Joseph Grimer is still our dynamic event champion. For a new first-year team member, he stepped up and did the whole team proud on the biggest stage of them all. So I think I've seen some of the races, and you certainly were driving very well and competing well for the team. And then we had from Liverpool, John Moores, get in. Massive congratulations to George and Leon, their drivers, for the endurance. It was a very hard fought race, and congratulations on the victory there. And saying thanks to Formula Student for organising this year's competition under very difficult circumstances, and a big well done to all the other teams that are competing. And so I think that's a nice one to close on. It echoes the sentiments. My thanks to all, and I'm sure all of our judges, volunteers, and students out there are thinking the same. Thank you very much. We've got a video that we'll close with. I'd look forward to hopefully seeing you all at our competition next year. Thank you and good night.